So, I stopped playing Call of Duty for about a year and a half, 2 years. The reason I stopped was simply because the game was getting a little bit stale, a little bit, not the same thing over and over again, but just not fun. I can't really explain why, but it fizzled out, and I thought I was done with the franchise. I was happy moving on to games like Rainbow Six Siege and some survival games and some RPGs and all that sort of stuff. And then, about a week ago, me and a few friends, we jumped on to Modern Warfare Remastered. I don't know why, can't remember the conversation, but it ended up being kind of fun. And not just like, oh, this is fun, nostalgia, but really, like, let's keep playing this game. And it got me thinking, maybe like, really interested. It sparked some thought, because this game has been around for a long time. And when I say this game, I mean this franchise. Like, I don't mean this particular game. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game you're seeing right now has been around for, well, the original version has been around for a very, very long time. There are some people playing Call of Duty right now that are younger than the original version of this game, which is mad. Wow, I've never actually even thought of that. It just occurred to me now. That's mad. But, this game not been around for as long as the whole franchise. But let's say we start from COD 4. It's been around for a long, long time. And it got me thinking, like, why is this game, why am I still coming back to it? Like, I thought I was done. Why am I still, still wanting to play it? It's just interesting to me, because it's a really, really old game. Like, when I think of old games, I think Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, that sort of thing. And I have to be honest, I don't get the same vibes on those games. Like, I love them to bits, and I'll go back for nostalgia reasons, but I never stick around to play them for a greater amount of time. And that could be due to the fact they're single-player, linear platform games that have an end, and you complete it, you're like, yep, cool. Whereas this game, technically speaking, you can never really complete it because it's PvP, and you just keep playing game after game. But it's still interesting to me, like, why after 10 years there are other PvP games out there. Why is this one still keeping me coming back? And it's just, I thought it'd be fun to have a discussion about it. Sort of, for us old men more than the newer players, I suppose. The old men that remember the days of COD 4. The old men that remember the days of, terrible hosts, bad connections, host-ended game. No, there was no lag compensation. It was all boots on the ground. This is where we got our start, and it's all my opinion as well. I should point out that this is all my opinion. It's not doctrine. I probably could have researched some more factual things about the game and made this a bit more of an informative video, but it's just one of those. It's more for just discussion rather than information, I suppose is the way to put it. But oh yeah, one last thing I should point out is this gameplay is very old. This gameplay was recorded way back when this game was new, like Modern Warfare Remastered was new. So I'm trying to think of what COD are we on now? Like, we're on COD 15, 16. I think we're on 15. Modern Warfare 2019 is going to be COD 16, I think. Let's think. Black Ops 2 was 9. So, Ghost 10, Advanced Warfare 11, Black Ops 3 was 12. Was there another one between then? No, Black Ops 3 was 12. Infinite Warfare 13. And then it was World War 2. I played that game for like 3 games and gave up. Because that was the point at which I sort of stopped. I was like, I'm kind of bored of this now. Don't really see the point in playing this franchise. This game wasn't fun, and I put it down for a year and a half, 2 years. But yeah, I think after World War 2, there's obviously been what's the latest one called? It's Black Ops 4, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so COD 15, 16. 16's coming out later this year. So it's been a long time since this game was relevant, let alone the first version of it. So, you know, this is old footage. This is really old. Like, I can't do this gameplay now. When I jumped back on, first 5 games went horribly negative. Barely managed to do anything good for the rest of it. Had one decent game for the first session. Been getting it back slowly but surely, but damn. Like, I'm watching this gameplay thinking, I wish I could still do this now. This is incredible. Like, I say incredible. It's not anything too special. It's not a crazy sort of collection of montage clips. It's just a standard game, kicking some ass, getting kills, not dying, standard Call of Duty stuff. But anyway, since I'm not playing it for 2 years, why do I was trying to think of why this franchise is still a relevant thing in today's culture. And the cynic in me wanted to say it was because, you know, it's an easy game to rehash. So from a game developer's perspective, there's nothing really original about any of the games. Like, there is, you know, there's originality to it, but it's still the same premise, at least from the multiplayer. Run around, use different guns, get kills, you know, win games, rinse, repeat. Which is a lot of PvP. So that's not me saying that's a negative thing. Like, it's more just, you know, it's easy to rehash this game. And, you know, that seems to have been the general sort of theme of how the game's been rehashed, is that it's more or less the same thing over and over again. And then there's always going to be a constantly regenerating fan base because, you know, more and more kids each generation are coming of age or coming of the age of which they want to play this game. And so the cynic in me wants to believe that it's still relevant, and that the reason the franchise is still going is because, you know, of that reason. But I have to realise that's not strictly speaking true, because I'm still playing this game. And, like, I bought World War II, and if I'd have bought it as a disc copy, I would have definitely put it away. Like, I would have returned the game, got my money back, because I didn't want to play it. And I didn't even consider buying Black Ops 4 because I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it. But I'm still coming back to this one, and I'm still, you know, playing the COD that I have. After 2 years of not playing one, after 10 years of playing them, like, Call of Duty's been a part of my life for 10 years now. And, like, it's crazy to think that. But yeah, I started in World at War. And I, you know, bought Modern Warfare 2 shortly afterwards. But COD 5's when I started, and we're about to go into COD 16. So yeah, I have been playing this game for 10 years. And so I started to think, why is it this game? Why do we keep coming back to it? Because I get bored of all games eventually, but this one keeps me coming back. And there's a few reasons that I thought of, you know, why I like this game myself, like why I personally keep coming back. And it's to do with a few things. First of all, I think it's one thing that keeps its its replayability terrible. Its replayability is because it's a very arcade style game, Call of Duty. It always has been. And what I mean by arcade style is it's like, think back to the old arcade machines, you know, like Space Invaders. You put the money in the machine, you played the game until it was, you know, until you die. You know, you got a good score, you died in the end, you ran out of lives, you game overed, and then you just like, okay, I can beat that score, let's play it again. And you kept coming back to try and beat your high score. Call of Duty is very, very, very similar to that. It's very easy to play over and over again because you get kills, you go on a kill streak, you get the rewards that you're aiming for, because that's the feeling of, you know, accomplishment is that you you know, you get the rewards, and then you die, and you're like, okay, let's go again, because you respawn instantly and you just go again. And there are other things to Call of Duty that are different, you know, there are things that give it some more variety, but that's the main premise. You think of the mainstream idea of Call of Duty, what's the playlist that always has the most players in? Oh yeah, it's Team Deathmatch. It's literally what I just described. Get kills until you die. You know, you get kills to try and get rewarded for them, and then you rinse repeat. And you know, my reward system has sort of shifted, like the things I enjoy getting out of the game. So it used to be I'm hunting for that tactical nuke, or I'm hunting for this kill streak, hunting for that. And it's these days, it's more I'm hunting for good scores and great kill streaks. You know, I don't really care about my kill streak rewards. Like, you know, in this game, it's just the chopper, and that's it. Everyone gets that eventually. And you know, that's pretty much it. I'm just going for good scores and good kill streaks, and I feel really good, really, you know, like it's satisfied about the game. It's satisfying. It's a satisfying game to play and do well at, and that's what keeps us coming back. Is what I feel. Like, think about, you know, how satisfying it was to get things like the tactical nuke. You think, damn, the noise that goes off, the fact that you won the game, like a kill streak that just wins the game. That's the ultimate reward, free win. There you go, boom. it's super satisfying. I think that's a humongous part of what makes this game so replayable. It's the concept of being better as well. Like that's sort of a nice little segue into there. Yeah, the concept of doing well, doing better than your peers. It's a competitive game, and competitive games have always been replayable. Look at sports, you know, like football / soccer or basketball or anything. Like, you play to win. And why do you play to win? I suppose it's for monetary reward, but it's also to be better than your peers. I mean, these games, there's no monetary reward for things like this, or things like Pokemon, for example, or Smash Bros. On the Wii, or the new one on the Switch. Like, hell, I think back to the fact that this has always been my sort of thing, like, you know, competitive games, because the first game that I truly, like, played the ever-loving shit out of was Mario Strikers Charged Football on the Nintendo Wii. I'm not ashamed to admit it, that I poured a lot of, you know, a lot of time and effort into that game. I even got to world #1 at one point. Like, it didn't last very long, and my win-loss was about 2, which is terrible compared to most people that was like 50. But still, like, I played it that much and won that many games and wanted to keep striving to do better and be the best. And, like, it's that sort of thing. It's what keeps us coming back to this game. It's what makes us click that respawn button and not rage quit because, I'm coming back, I'm going to get a kill streak this time. You know, it's being better than your peers. It's the rewarding nature of how it feels. Because, like, I mean, I shouldn't think of it as even being that surprising that I was enjoying this game, because this is the one I came back to. I still don't want to go back to Black Ops 3, and, you know, I don't want to buy a new COD. I'm considering buying the newest one, the Modern Warfare 2019. It looks pretty good. It's got Spec Ops in it, apparently, which I am humongously stoked for. Like, humongously stoked for. I loved Spec Ops. I think I'll be buying it. Like, more or less just for that. But, like, it was a funny little nuance that this game franchise used to have, where you'd play the new one, the new Call of Duty would come out, you'd play it, and you know, it's funny to think back, really. You play it, and for 2 months or so, it would be the best game ever. You'd play it every day, and be like, yeah, this is amazing, oh, I love this game. And then you go back to, like, let's think, I think back to Black Ops 1, because Black Ops 1 is definitively my favourite Call of Duty of all time. Like, I can't... I want to put Modern Warfare 2 above it, because I think Modern Warfare 2 was a bit more of a balanced game. I mean, I say balanced, there were lots of, you know, douchey setups, but every gun felt usable. Whereas Black Ops 1, there are a few guns that were kind of meh. I did well with them, which is why I loved it so much, that, like, you felt the fact that you could do well with things like Akimbo Scorpions, Uzi Rapid Fire, the Stakeout, you know, these pretty subpar guns when you compare them to things like the FAMAS and the AUG. The fact I could do well was great, but there was a notable difference. Modern Warfare 2 don't feel that was a thing. Every gun was kind of usable in its own way. But either way, Black Ops 1 was the one that kept me going back the most. And I think back to when it first came out, and after about 2 months I was done with it. Went back to World at War, went back to Modern Warfare 2. But yeah, it's my favourite one now, and it's just funny to remember the whole nuance of the old Call of Duty is better, because after those 2 months you went back to the old one and like, oh yeah, this one's so much better, like why wasn't I playing this one? And it's that sort of, you know, funny little nuance that makes me think, yeah, it's kind of, you know, understandable that I'm enjoying Modern Warfare Remastered now. I didn't really have much to go back to, because Black Ops 3 was good, and I played it to death, but I don't think it was as enjoyable. I think it was the best COD for a few years, but then it you know, it really tailed off. Best recent COD, I should say, best relevant COD for in a few years. And then this one came out and it was okay-ish, but the honeymoon phase struck, and I suppose that contributes to how I sort of stopped playing COD after a while. But it's just funny to think about it. You know, this game's what, 3 years old now? Of course I'm enjoying it. Duh. Like, that's how Call of Duty works, right? But yeah, I think another thing that really keeps me coming back to this, and this is more of a personal thing. I don't know if anyone shares this thing, but I think of it as like a movie comparison. Because when think to a movie like Rambo, for example, like, you know, with this particular, you know, soldier of fortune jumping into a room full of, you know, like 6 people with a shotgun or an MG or something, and you just sort of, you come away from that. If you can walk into a room and kill like 3 or 4 people with a shotgun in quick succession, or you mow down like 4 or 5 people with MG, it gives you that sort of like a, oh, I'm John fucking Rambo, man. Like, this is amazing. I feel like a true badass in this game. It's that sort of mentality that keeps me coming back to it. But that's more of a personal thing, because I get that with every game. Like with Siege, I feel like a secret agent man who like understands all his gadgets. You know, like James Bond, for example, who's got the right gadget for the right situation every time. And same thing with, like, you know, Destiny and Borderlands and stuff, you know, with all these super abilities that you can become, you know, really fluent with. You think, wow, I'm one with my abilities. I'm one of the Avengers right now. Like, that's what I always used to do, is compare it to that. It's that sort of thing that keeps you coming back to games and makes you think, feels so fun, like, feels so amazing playing this. And it's less prominent with this game, but it's certainly a factor. And it's just one of those things that keeps you coming back. And that's my personal take on it, is I love the concept of getting, you know, of getting a good score in this game. Because the thing we have to remember about Call of Duty is it's so incredibly chaotic. It's hectic as hell. You think, you know, games like Rainbow Six Siege, I keep comparing it because that's the game I play the most. It's the one I feel most authoritatively viable to mention. It's different because Rainbow Six Siege is all about tactics and slow gameplay. I mean, to a degree, there is still the concept of a rush in that game, but for the most part, it's tactical. You have to think about what you're doing, and I guess I find that more appealing in my older age. I mean, I'm early 20s, and I'm not an old person, but when I started playing this game, I was much younger, and so, you know, the replayability, the constant hecticness of it was a little bit easier to digest, I guess. I guess that's me kind of saying this game's easy, but it's not easy by any means, not to do well in it anyway. But I suppose that kind of ties into why I think the chaotic nature makes it so addictive, is that when you do something incredibly successfully, like walk into a room and kill 5 people, in this game, that's humongous. Like, because you die so fast, you know, you have to have pinpoint accuracy just to even have a chance. And you just think, if you pull that sort of thing off, like, it feels so good. It feels much better than, I don't know, in Siege, where you can get one-shot headshots and, you know, you can manipulate your environment to do better. There are ways of making that sort of a thing a lot more possible. I don't know. It's different. It's difficult to compare it to something else, but the concept of doing something really fun in this game is what makes it so addictive, in my opinion. And it's that particular, you know, sort of, you know, play style that the game has. It's unique. It's really, really unique. You know, like in terms of that. I mean, I think, what would I compare it to? Like a small arena competitive shooter, team-based competitive shooter. The only one I can think of, I mean, by all means, correct me, like, in the comments section, because I can't think of anything other to compare it to other than Overwatch, where I think, you know, that's a hectic 6v6. It's less hectic because of the respawn time, but Overwatch has more of a team-based thing because everyone does their own unique thing, whereas this is sort of, you know, you feel like you can do well on this one on your own. I suppose that's another reason, is that I gave up Overwatch because of all the bad teams I kept getting, which is just bad luck, I think. But, you know, I don't think the whole player base was terrible in Overwatch, but it kept happening game after game where the enemy team was coordinated as hell and mine just wasn't, even though it was casual. It was kind of, I guess, frustrating is the word to use. But in this game, I don't really feel that. Occasionally you do get on a terrible team and you go up against a coordinated set of, you know, M16 stopping power sightline watchers, but for the most part, you can do well in this game on your own, and that really, really helps, I think, in terms of its replayability as well. It's just a unique game. It's chaotic, yet you can do well in it, and when you do, because of its nature, you feel incredible. And your mileage may vary, of course. Like, that's not... Because there's some people that won't be able to do what I do, and they come back for different reasons. This is my point. It's all about a discussion. You know, there's some people that play differently. Some people that, you know, see it differently. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I started playing this game, this was not my experience. It took me several games to get a kill, you know, and it took me several more games to get, you know, it took me several more games to get a recon plane, and then an artillery strike and a set of dogs, because World of War was when I started. You know, I see how this game can be frustrating at times, but certainly, you know, I kept coming back to it, and it was that concept of doing better that kept me going. And I suppose, you know, that's pretty much it, really. It's the concept of doing better than your peers, like the competitive aspect of it. It's the concept of, you know, how chaotic it is and how amazing it feels to succeed in that environment. And whether you equate it to a movie, you know, comparison or not, pulling off games like the ones I've been showing you now, it feels great in this game. I don't know why. It just does. And this is the whole point, I suppose, of the discussion, is that it's all about, you know, what your experience is with the game. So, yeah, in summary, the chaotic nature of this game, the addictive, you know, rush that you get from doing well in this environment, on top of the fact you're beating your peers and, you know, any comparisons you can make that make it feel awesome, is what keeps me coming back. And I think it's going to keep us coming back for a long time, this game. Because even though it is definitively probably a lot worse than a lot of other different, you know, shooters that are out there, it's got that factor about it, that fun factor. And I just think that's the sort of thing that's going to, you know, that's going to keep us coming back to it. Like I said, your mileage may vary, but that's just... The fact that I'm coming back to it 10 years later, after having thought I was done with it, just sort of proves to me that there is something about this game, this franchise, that will always, you know, just trigger that little sense of, this is awesome. And it is a frustrating game, don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of really, really frustrating games over the last week, where I've had to whip out something, you know, less fun, like something a bit more generic, like an assault rifle with stopping power. Just because that's what everyone else is using, it's making it difficult to, you know, do well. It's got its flaws. But then you get games like the ones I've been showing you, and it just feels incredible. So, yeah, I mean, there's probably several other points that I've missed in terms of this game's popularity, but that's what the comment section's for, it's what the description will be for as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, the you know, sort of a talk about Call of Duty, because let's face it, it's been around for such a long time. It's interesting. It's interesting that it's survived this long, and when I say a relevant franchise, I mean I'm still playing it, so it's still in my mindset, not relevant in terms of the general demographic and the games market, but more like I still think of it as a game I would play. That's what I mean by relevant. So the fact it stayed relevant, there's got to be something about it, and I hope that's what this discussion has prompted you to think. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. Thank you for watching. See you guys some other time. Take care.